Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're just going to give it a minute or two and let everyone get settled in before we begin. All right, welcome everyone. And as we settle in, I think we have a few guidelines we'd love to go over. We'd love to welcome you to our webinar this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Just a couple of guidelines as we get started. This webinar will be recorded. And you will all receive a session after the webinar. You'll all be muted, but we definitely welcome you to participate in the Q&A in our chat, and you may see a poll or two pop up that we invite your participation in as well. If we can't get to your questions during our Q&A section, we'll make sure to follow up and answer all questions that come through. So right now, I'd love to introduce our host for today. We have Yaron from WINT. He is the WINT Chief Product and Strategy Officer, bringing us 25 years of experience in the industry and overseeing all of WINT strategy and products. And our special guest today is Scott Middlebrook from the Mace Group. He has been with Mace for 12 years and brings us over 30 years of experience in MEP roles. Here you'll see a few of our learning outcomes for today. We're really excited to bring you some highlights from the JCoP Escape of Water guidelines and some strategies on how to best implement your water strategies. And with that, I'd love to turn it over to Yaron. Yaron, you're on.
Oh, thanks, Sydney. And thanks everyone for joining us today. So we're here to discuss JCoP for Escape of Water. And I'm sorry, slides seem to be jumping here occasionally. But we're here to discuss JCoP for Escape of Water. And the reason this task force has assembled and come up with the new code is because water has become what is often said, water is the new fire. Water in construction projects has become a major source of pain for contractors, general contractors, principal contractors, MEP contractors, and of course insurers who eventually pay a lot of these costs. You can see some of the statistics here. 42% of UK building insurance claims come from construction. It is the #1 claim on builders' risk policies. 15% year-over-year increase in claims over the past few years. And bottom line that many of you on this call are feeling is deductibles have risen from a few tens of thousands of pounds per year a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, to what is now very common, £250,000 to £1 million per incident. That's money. That's real money that can be very painful if hitting a project could significantly impact its profitability. And so this group of experts from insurance companies and other industry experts has assembled to release JCoP for Escape of Water. It includes experts from insurance companies, from CREG, from the Chartered Institute of Plumbing and Heating Engineers, and other groups of experts. The first version was released 4 or 5 months ago in August last year. It applies to both new construction and renovation projects, any project over £2.5 million in contract value, £2.5 million, I'm sorry, in contract value. The standard itself, or the code itself, will be or is already being required either in the construction contract or by insurers. It is a gradual process. I do not believe that it is still broadly required, but clearly it is coming because I think the industry has had enough with water damage on construction projects. So it is coming. A few of the key elements, and we'll dive in some detail, though of course we can't cover this large of a code in one session. The key elements are a set of planning guidelines, how to properly plan, how to use technology, what are the processes and procedures, and what are the roles and responsibility. Covering all of this in a lot of detail, the JCoP for Escape of Water outlines the methods and the things that need to be done in order to put an end to this very painful problem. What are the key provisions? The key elements or provisions of the code are, first of all, a water systems management plan. The WSMP, by the way, you'll see a lot of acronyms in this code. So WSMP, WERP, WRP, and so on. You can see some of them here on the screen. The water systems management plan is the master plan, which is required for the project and outlines everything that will be done from planning to emergency and so on. Any element, including technology and people, related to managing water on a construction project. It assigns a water responsible person. This is someone from the principal contractor staff. It includes, or included are also the water emergency response plan. What do you do when water leaks, when an event actually happens? And what is the team required to take care of this emergency situation? And it details and requires in many places a technological element called an AFMS in the code, active automated flow monitoring shutoff devices. It's the key technology component that takes care of a lot of the issues beyond, of course, process and people. An important note, while the code was designed and initiated to solve issues on construction projects, it actually very explicitly mentions the need to consider and include these types of solutions for the operational phase of the building. It requires that customers be involved at the design stage of the WSMP for the site, the Water Systems Management Plan. And there are a number of very good reasons to do this. The first, if you design things upfront in conjunction with the customer, then costs will go down. It's always more expensive and more painful to do things as change orders or on the fly when the project is happening. So there's a clear requirement here to include this upfront. Moreover, if you design the water management capabilities of the building during planning, then you can implement this at a fairly low cost in the building. So on the operational side, you already have a building that is much more waterproof for the future, for its life cycle, and you can increase the building's BREEAM or LEED scoring quite significantly by including these elements in. So a few good reasons, cost, future waterproof, and increased sustainability scores all drive towards planning upfront and doing things at the planning phase. Let's take a look at the Water Systems Management Plan. The requirement says develop a plan for each project. Every project requires a dedicated, customized, naturally, every project is different, so a customized plan for the project. It should include or encompass all project stages from design through construction, testing, commissioning, handover. And as we know, even after handover, contractors are, during the defects liability period, are still liable for damages. So effective solutions will cover that. In fact, some of the largest damages that at least I've experienced in the past have happened during the defects liability period. Overall responsibility for this is with the principal contractor. And it should cover, and this is important, it should cover all water systems in the building. Historically, we've seen solutions that included some subset. Typically, it was the domestic cold water lines, which naturally is important, and probably most fittings and most pipes in the building are domestic cold water. However, there are many other water systems, from sprinklers to circulating closed loops, LPA, low pressure hot water, domestic water systems, and so on. Temporary water, by the way, is mentioned very specifically. So every one of these water systems must be managed and must be included in the protections provided by the Water Systems Management Plan. The emergency response plan, as expected by the name, is a plan that should handle water incidents as they happen, effectively, quickly, and efficiently, so the damage is minimized. And this, as the rest of the water management plan, should be created pre-construction with clear roles. Who is the water responsible person? Who takes care of this? Who is the water emergency response team? So it actually includes a named list of people who will take action when an emergency happens. You should define response protocols. How do you shut off upon emergency situation? How do you reinstate water? By the way, historically, I've seen reinstatement of water become a liability when not done right, because if an incident happens and your automated shutoff systems will shut off, sometimes you have unauthorized people opening the valves, and now you have a leak happening that a person has overridden. So reinstatement of water is a very important part of any emergency response plan. And finally, of course, root cause analysis, so that learnings can be applied and things can be improved for the future. The plan must also include training. Very important and highlighted in the code a few times is valve locations and controls. And of course, ongoing refreshers for the staff, both general contractor staff as well as subcontractor staff should be refreshed and retrained every period. Automated flow monitoring devices, as I believe we mentioned before, are critical elements of the code. It is the core technological element. And at the end of the day, you can rely on people and process so much, but when something happens during off hours, during the night, at a long weekend, there is not much your people or processes will do. And that's when the big damages happen. That's when technology can really come in handy. I assume most of you are familiar with the concept. The idea is to monitor flow. You track water flows in real time. The system understands what these flows mean and what is abnormal, and when something is happening that should not happen. And it automatically identifies unusual patterns and then takes action, automatically shuts off, and or alerts, depending on the preference at the site, at the time, and so on. Conditions may change, requiring different behaviors at different times of day. And now for a quick poll. And let's run this poll. Sydney, do you want to run this?
Yeah, so now we would love to hear from you. If you look to the pop-up on your screen, you should see our poll come up, and we want to hear from you. Have you implemented an escape of water strategy on your projects, or are you requiring your customers to implement one? So we'd love to hear from you if you want to submit your votes now. And while those numbers are coming in, we can turn it back to Yaron.
Thanks, Sydney. I think let's wait for us. Okay, we can continue. Fine. So we're going to talk about WINT and explain what it is that we do and how we help with leak mitigation and escape of water and preventing escape of water. Our solution is an AFMS. It falls under this category. And it is designed for both construction and operational use. It is based on AI, allowing it to identify very accurately when water flows are abnormal, to automatically shut off. There are multiple customizations, and this is something that has come up over the years as we've learned and experienced what is needed. You can imagine that during the night, you want different behaviors than you want at the site when you are doing some heavy concrete works, for example. You do not want automated shut off on those concrete works. You definitely want quick action during the night. And so the system is customizable in many parameters and many ways to support all these best practice use cases. It also allows for remote valve control, so your staff can take action remotely from home, or of course from the site, from their mobile app, from their mobile phones. We've done hundreds of projects. I think we've probably seen most things. Never say all things, but most things that can happen in this context on a construction project. And we've gathered a deep list of best practices. The product itself is supported by a 24/7 support team. And Above that, we have a proactive 24/7 proactive monitoring practice, which means we will look at the site during the night, we'll understand what is happening at the flows, and when alerts come up, we will have the ability to contact the right people at the project, to take action remotely. And so beyond the technology that is located at the site, there's actually a team helping 24/7 remotely. Results of our work have been proven. I'll show in a few slides the proven results that eventually end up at over 90% reduction of risk, measured by some of the world's leading insurance companies. We also bring sustainability to the play, and sustainability is not the primary reason for implementing this type of technology on construction projects, but it is important for construction projects, and it is critical for operational use. We provide the sustainability benefits, first of all, of course, of reducing water waste. Typical on commercial buildings, quarter of the water in a commercial building goes to waste. And we also provide a significant increase in ESG ratings, BREEAM and LEED, where we can really help increase the building's overall sustainability score. In terms of implementation, you'll start working with us, or customers start working with us by providing us the plans as early on as possible. We will start working with the team's engineering experts to design where valves and meters should be deployed at the site. We provide those diagrams. They will be installed when the actual pipes are put in place at the site. And they are connected to control devices that know how to monitor the flow and to control the valve. An important aspect on practically every construction site I've been to is communication. These devices need to communicate, or otherwise alerts will not go off. By the way, the devices are totally autonomous, so they will take action, but you will not know what action has been taken, and you cannot command them remotely if communication is down. And to maximize that aspect, we have solutions that can communicate on cellular, Wi-Fi, or Ethernet. They can fall back between themselves, and we have put in place multiple elements to support the communication capability. Experience tells us that it is a challenge. Construction sites will not always have cellular coverage before the building is ready. If it's a high building, high floors typically need cellular boosters that are put in place only at the end of construction. Wi-Fi, while we work with some of the best in the industry, and they are putting in Wi-Fi on their sites, it's usually a hit and miss game. It's a little bit difficult to keep it up at all times. So bottom line, we put in place practically every solution from remote antennas to multiple communication methods for these systems. The systems are supported by a mobile app on the site, and of course KPIs, reports, and analytics on a website. They can be integrated with building management systems. And as I mentioned before, they are covered by a second layer of defense, human monitoring that is critical in our experience to help with some of the issues that arise. They support every water system in the building, from temporary water to main feeds, domestic cold, domestic hot, circulating loops, and so on. We've built algorithms and hardware to support every one of these systems. The systems will use a combination of active policy settings. For example, do not allow more than 30 liters during the night to flow in this location. That would be a very simple rule. To AI algorithms that use pattern recognition. Pattern recognition can be based either on normal patterns learned at the site or on things that we know are typical behaviors. Construction sites are not trivial to learn for normal behaviors because they are quite erratic. And so we've built in specialized capabilities to support those. You can see one of those here below. What you're seeing here is a gradual pipe degradation. Typically on a construction project, this would be a bad fitting, which starts to drip away. And so flows are extremely slow as the drip starts. But over a few hours, it will increase as the location degrades, as the fitting degrades, and you can see how flow rates increase. The system alerted first, detecting this pattern right around here. And since that did not resolve the issue, then a short while later, it shut water off. Some water will always go on the floor, of course, because you can't prevent the leak before it happens, but very minimal. And so this is an example of how pattern recognition AI algorithm will detect the problem. And the combination with best practices of combining fixed rules with AI-based solutions will provide typically the best use case and the best solution. The mobile app, there's a few of the screens of the mobile app. You can see site data here. It provides information around how much water has been used. Is it high or low relative to previous uses? You can see dashboards for flow control, water flow systems control. You will typically have from a few to around 5 to 10 to many tens of systems on a construction project. Some of them will be disconnected from power, a valve may malfunction. These things happen, they're physical devices. This dashboard gives you everything you need to know about these systems. And on the right-hand side, you can see what happens when an alert comes up. You can see that it was initially detected at 4:35 p.m. And then you can see at 4:44 another alert, and then the valve has shut off at 5:01. So you can see all of this statistic, all of this timeline, figure out what happened. And if you're the water responsible person, you can immediately open the valve if you think it's wrong because maybe something legitimate has happened. And of course, if the valve is not set to automatically shut off, you can shut it off remotely in no time. This is an important metric measured by one of the world's largest insurance companies, Munich Re. And what they're showing, bottom line, are two metrics. The first, 73% less water claims have come from wind protected sites. So that's around 25 or 27, to be accurate, 27% reduction in the amount of claims. Or I'm sorry, 73% reduction, 73% reduction in the amount of claims, and so only around a quarter of claims remain. In terms of the losses, claims come up typically because some water will flow during a leak, as is obvious. We will only stop after the leak has started. But 90% of the financial losses or the actual claims payouts will be eliminated. So only 10% of the payouts on these projects remains once these systems have been installed, which is quite significant, clearly for any insurer. And this is why JCoP has been put in place to achieve this type of reduction in payouts. The details on the right-hand side it's more granular information, so I won't dive into it right now, but anyone interested will be happy to take an offline conversation and explain the study in more details. I think the bottom lines are the key thing for the time we have. As a result of this, we have developed a program for a performance warranty with a daughter company of Munich Re, a company called HSB, for those of you familiar. We provide a performance warranty for the technology, in part to help with removing the financial impact, and of course, as a result of the rising deductibles. With £250,000 to £1 million of deductibles, it can get painful. It is backed by HSB, and we provide coverage up to £200,000 for damage at locations that were protected by WINT. We provide it for qualifying UK projects, and this year we are actually providing it as a non-paid addition to those qualifying projects. It's projects over a certain deal size or fee size for WINT, not something that most projects do not meet anyway. So most of our projects now have this warranty provided as part of the equipment. And with this, we will transfer the conversation to Mace. Mace has implemented a very rigorous best practices plan and water management protection plan. And I'll let Scott take it from here. Scott, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Aaron. So, hello, good morning from sunny Northamptonshire. My name's Scott Middlebrook. I'm Mace's Chief Electrical Engineer. And I know what you're thinking. This is like an escape of water seminar. Why you got an electrical engineer there? Well, for anybody that knows me, knows I love a process and knows that I love to manage a process. So in 2022, the business gave me the water processes to look after as well, to make sure the documents were updated regularly. And for those of you that don't know, Mace, we're a 2.5 billion turnover construction company worldwide. Predominantly in the UK, we do a lot of projects from very small interiors fit out projects all the way up to your Battersea power stations. So these documents I'm about to talk you through and these processes, we apply to all those projects because it is doable. Could I have the next slide, please? So as principal contractor, we are down to plan, manage and monitor the works. Obviously, there's coordination of health and safety on there. But from a water management perspective, at the plan stage, we need to identify all control measures for any escape of water. Now, this comes in the form of the flood mitigation strategy, which I'm going to talk to you about on the next slide. We then got to identify in that strategy how each water system will be managed and then appoint suitable persons, not just the water responsible persons, but all members of the emergency response team, because 9 times out of 10, these leaks have a tendency to happen out of hours, so we're going to have to make sure we've got the out of hours people in there, normally in the form of the logistics or the security guards, to sort of assist with this as well. The management section of it is normally done with the water management plan. Again, all the items we've identified in the flood mitigation strategy will then be transferred over to the management plan to make sure we've got the right control measures in there that we regularly review on a monthly basis. Communication is key because the construction site changes on a regular basis. And to be fair, the turnover of staff does have a habit of doing that as well. So we've got to make sure that when the plan is updated, when we've got the new emergency response process in place as the project's developed, or if we've had new staff in, that they're all up to date and they're fully briefed on the latest processes on that as well. And that includes the subcontractors as well. We get our specialist mechanical subcontractors and our temporary building service contractors. Well, I'll never forget them as well, because again, they've all got water systems that pulse through our construction sites. And then we've got to monitor it. We've got the process in place, we've got the people in place, but we need to do the audits. We need to do a quarterly audit. So simple 25 question audit that talks about the documentation as well as the stuff that's out on site. So we can have a look at that deep dive audit into that. If we do get an escape of water incident, we do a complete review. And also as well, the dry runs as well. I have a habit of turning up to sites and just going to the top of the shop of the site and just ring and say, we've got a leak, just to make sure that all the emergency response is in order and everybody knows what they're doing. Next slide, please. So this snapshot is actually contained in the flood mitigation strategy. I'm not going to read this verbatim because we'll be here till Christmas. But the top blue squares are the flood mitigation strategy. So broadly, once the project's awarded, we do start looking at the valve placement in the tender stage, but this really comes to the front when we're awarded the project, because the project team then agree the roles and responsibility and make sure the flood mitigation strategy is started. The team then complete thorough reviews of each element of it. Are there any lessons learned? Have we had any recent sort of escape of waters? We've got a thing called the Knowledge Hub on Mace Way that the teams can go on there to see if there's been any recent escape of waters. And more importantly, what lessons do we learn out there? What should we be doing better next time? So the team then will review the risk schedule as per the flood mitigation strategy, and then it's signed off. We then take that flood mitigation strategy. Once we start getting water on, we then go to the water management plan. Now, this starts in pre-construction. Now, the PD, the project director, will appoint the water responsible persons for the project. At Mace, we have a lead and we have a deputy, because the lead people have holidays, people are away. So we've got to make sure we've got that cover there as well. The project will then fully complete the water management plan for the project. That will include all the risks identified in the flood mitigation strategy. And then the water responsible gets out as an emergency response team, who they are, identifies them, who it's going to be from the subcontractors, nominates them all, and they're all named in the water management plan. So we know the people who are going to be managing this process for us. And then we review it on a monthly basis, because things change, the site change, conditions change, the systems can change as well. So we make sure we do a thorough review on this on a monthly basis as well. Next slide, please. So the water responsible person is a really important role on a Mace site because they do manage the water management plan. Yaron, you're having real battles with these slides, aren't you? Needs to confirm that all the mitigation measures in place, and as well liaise with the subcontractors, because the contractors are going to have QA QC records, need to make sure that it's been installed according to specification, according to the relevant codes and practices as well. If there is an escape of water incident on site, they'll lead the root cause analysis into that. We need to identify the lessons learned team. They'll work with the WINT team as well, because it's not a case of just fitting the WINT and saying that's it, let's all go and do something else now. There are parameters that you can set with the WINT system. So for example, we have basic settings that come as standard, which is normally it will, if there's a leak during the night, it will isolate it, but if it's during the day, it will be the water responsible person to go and check it out and then instruct the isolation. And that will change as the project changes. Sometimes we've got to do night shifts, sometimes we're doing particular actions at night. So again, they need to liaise with the team and make sure the settings and the timings are always kept up to date. And communication, regular briefings, getting the emergency response team down, the subcontractors down, and briefing them. This has changed today, that's changed today, and this is the latest plan that we should be working to. The wet works water responsible person are also for the subcontractors as well, be the temporaries and the permanents. I do apologize at the moment, my screen is playing up, it's just blank. Only competent, sorry, excuse me. They need to confirm that only competent individuals, trained individuals, do the appropriate wet works. Monitors the training records of them as well to make sure if there's any specialist systems, any specialist training on, that they've got the relevant training, and also maintain records. The QA, QC, those packs, we need to make sure they're auditable, so we know that we've got a good installation going in. Next slide, please. As I mentioned previously, we do permits and we do audits. So any works on a live water system will require a wet work permit. This is issued by the Mace water responsible person. This is to confirm that all the relevant control measures are in place. We've got a suitable clear up kit. We've got suitable points of isolation, suitable RAMs in place, task specific RAMs, to make sure before we start doing that wet works, we've got everything in place to control any escape of water. On top of that, as I said previously, we do quarterly water compliance audits, a 25-question audit. That's done by the Mace water responsible person. But I do like to get out and about. You've seen me, if you're on Mace jobs, you will see me float about from time to time. I did 45 site inspections and electrical and water process audits last year. I do come out on an annual basis and do a thorough deep dive, not just in the process-based paperwork, but also on site as well, to make sure that the two tally and we are working to our processes. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, I do love a process, and I especially love a process flow chart. So every project needs a site-specific emergency response process in the form of a process flow chart. This is the easiest way to communicate the process to the logistics and these security teams who are going to form part, or could potentially form part of the emergency response team. It should be included for both in hours and out of hours as well. And as I said, it gets communicated as part of the pack to all members of the flood response team. And it changes. It could change as we go on, because the construction site as we got will develop, it will get built in, and it will change. So we just got to make sure that we're on top of the changes. And if we need to update it, we update that. It's not static. If it needs to be changed, we can update it. The water responsible person can identify and do that. And it's about making sure that every plan that we've got in place, including the emergency response procedures in the process flow charts, are relevant to that project for that moment in time. Next slide, please. So the key consideration, I mean, the WINT system that we use, it is recommended by our insurers on that, and it does cover all wet water systems as well. It does generally give accurate detection of any escape of water. And as I said, all the water responsible persons will download the app, so they can shut the system off if they need to. I'll let the two last ones speak for themselves. And go to the next slide, please. So We have been using WINT since 2021 across our sites. 60 plus projects at the moment, we've got it on there. It is the first call on all our projects to control any escape of water. And touch wood, since we've started using the system, we've not had any major escape of water incidents. The benefits, I'm advised, is the water and carbon savings. So that's 85,000 cubic meters, which is the equivalent of £250,000 in saved in water bills, and obviously 1,300 tonnes of carbon emission has also been saved off that as well. Next slide, please. So this was when, in the olden days, when we first started using the system, what we actually used to do with our water systems of an evening would be to turn them off. We don't do that anymore. We let the water systems leave them on paper water, then we will then shut it off. We had an incident where we turned the water off, and when the water come back on, the water hammer caused an incident, and it was 10,000 litres of water escapes. And you can see the timeline there. So this starts early on in the morning. So in that period, we managed to identify it, go and look at the leak, and then shut the valve down in that period of time there. So the lessons learned for that was really, we're not going to shut it off overnight. What we're going to do is we're going to let the water be on overnight and then use the WINT system to detect any leaks and then shut them down. And then during the daytime, then our teams can go out. Then they we've got a team on site. We've got lots of people on site that can go out and look at the look at the leak. And I think that's me. I had to go a bit rapid there, Yaron, because you were a bit behind on time. You promised me you said 15, 20 minutes, but go on, Yaron, I'm with you.
Thanks a lot, Scott. That was great. And I'll pass it over to Sydney.
Excellent. So just to summarize, if you go back to that slide for a moment, thank you so much. So to summarize, the keys to leak prevention success are, of course, your process. I think that was driven home quite well. Design and planning, applying your best practices, and engaging third parties. And now I want to make sure that we save some time to answer some questions. So first of all, there's still time to submit your questions in the chat or in the questions section if you have not done so far. And to kick us off, I have a question for both of you, which is, how do you see JCoP changing the future of water risk management on construction sites? And are you aware of any upcoming legislation relating to the use of or management of water on your sites?
Do you want to go first, Yaron?
Sure. So I'm not sure we're going to see legislation in this respect. I think this is more a commercial aspect between the contractors and the insurers and obviously the customers. So this type of regulation and the requirement to use it will likely not become legislation, but will become a staple of insurance policies and of construction contracts. I'm not sure how it will evolve over time. Naturally, things that come up as first phase have future phases, and they improve as learnings come along. I think there are things in there that probably will be changed. I think Scott's example of that water hammer is a result of water hitting the pipes when it's open during the morning is an example. I believe JCoP currently is asking for water shut off during the night. Our experience says maybe not an optimal solution. Things like that, will get embedded as the standard becomes more tried in the field. Scott, I'm not sure if you have anything to add.
I've got nothing to add to that, Yaron, to be honest with you. Did it perfectly.
Well, that's great, because this next question is for you, Scott.
Okay.
In your opinion, who generally would provide the water systems management plan? Would that fall to the main contractor? Does that vary across different projects?
No, we always do the water management plan. We always do the flood mitigation and the water management plan. The insurers come to us first, okay, because it's our project. We're principal contractor. Now, if the subs want their own water management plan, I'd encourage it. As long as it matches and feeds into ours, I'm fine with that. But the general rule is we're the principal contractor. bear in mind as well is our insurers have got the right to come out and audit us on a regular basis. And it's not that I don't trust people, but I feel more comfortable with us doing the water management plan and being in control of that, so I can see it. So I know that when the insurers do land, we've got everything in place.
Excellent, thank you. Yaron, can the WINT systems be used on closed loop and DHW systems?
Absolutely, yes. Short answer. We have solutions for every type of water system you can find in an operational or construction building. We do closed loops for subfloor heating. We do closed loops for air conditioning. And the answer is then yes.
And another question about the WINT systems, can the mobile app be used to change each valve's shutoff parameters? So can the different valves be customized for different areas in your building?
The valves can absolutely be customized. Each valve can get its own policy and its own behaviors. If you've got a multi-floor project and works are being done on the 10th floor, then you can have that activity be taken into account for that floor, but not for others. Absolutely, there's a lot of flexibility there.
Excellent. Scott, has Mace seen a reduction in insurance premiums since installing WINT systems?
Yes, I believe we have. We have a meeting with the insurers every year, and I believe there's been a reduction. I can't tell you what it is because I'm not that high up the tree, but I'll know that we have, but I can't tell you what it is.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. And this is kind of an interesting question about water management systems in general, but specifically WINT. If there's an existing sprinkler system prior to handover of a building, for example, how does the WINT system differentiate between a leak and a sprinkler activation?
That's a good question. We will not take action. So the answer is you can't always differentiate. And the risk of getting it wrong is too big because we may be stopping important water flows and let a fire go. And so for sprinkler systems specifically, we implement a detect and alert only mechanism, but not a shut off mechanism. We leave it to people to figure out whether this is a legitimate flow, which means you have fire. That's not good. Or if it's a mistake and water should be shut off. But we will not take action on sprinklers.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think we have time for one more question, which will go out to both of you. How does Mace and WINT align their goals during the integration process? Were there any key lessons learned or any crucial steps that came up during that process?
Are we talking about during pre-construction?
Yes.
So what we generally do pre-construction is because you got two parties involved here. You got Mace and you got the WINT. So we got the Mace team. They know their project and the build of their project better than the WINT team. No disrespect. So what we will do is the water responsible person and the team will go through the schematics, go through the plan drawing, will mark up what they think. That pack then goes to WINT, who do a recce check on it. They might suggest more, they might suggest less. And then there's a meeting to agree the final scheme. And that's generally how we do things. So it's just it's clear communication between the two parties involved, and making sure there's an agreement of the extent of the systems that are to be covered. To answer your question.
Excellent.
Sydney, do you want to read out the results of the poll? You wrote it in the chat, but perhaps not everybody saw it.
Yes, so 87% of respondents responded that they either currently have an escape of water plan or are considering or in the process of implementing one. So I think those responses are really clear. This is something that is very much a concern across all different types of sites and across different industries. So that was some really valuable information we saw there. Excellent. And I think that brings us to time. So I want to thank everybody again for coming and participating. Of course, thank you, Scott, for joining us today, and Yaron for your amazing insight on these new regulations and how we can all adjust ourselves and make sure that we are in compliance with the industry. As we mentioned earlier, all of you will be receiving a recording of this session. And if we did not get a chance to answer your question, we will be in touch to make sure that all of those questions get answered. Thank you all so much and have a fantastic rest of your day.